Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar. For those that aren't familiar with HIPGive, it's a crowdfunding platform for social impact projects. HIPGive have been working for 2 years now, but it's part of a much larger organization called Hispanics in Philanthropy, which has over 30 years experience working in the US and Latin America boosting Latino philanthropy and social justice. I am Eileen Murphy and I'm working with Anita. I'm pleased to present her. Anita leads the training and outreach program in HIPGive. She has first-hand experience of the challenges and responsibilities of leading a non-profit organization and over recent years has specialized in social innovation and online fundraising, working as a consultant, and she's also part of the Giving Tuesday or Un Día para Dar global leaders. Before I pass over to Anita, I just want to mention that for those of you who aren't familiar with GoToWebinar, there are a few tips to help you make the most of the webinar. By default, we are all like mute, not Anita, of course. So if you have any question or comment, you can write in the right panel. And if we don't see it at the time, we will have time for questions and answers at the end. After the webinar has ended, you will be able to access a recording and we'll send you a very short survey. Please do take a few minutes to answer it because your feedback will be really useful as we work together to help boost your crowdfunding capacity. Thank you, and now over to Anita.
Thank you very much indeed, Eileen. It's great to be with you here all today. This is the first webinar in a series of 5 or 6 that we're going to run from now until the end of 2016. In each webinar, we'll be talking about different ways to boost your fundraising capacity through crowdfunding and online platforms. Today is the first one, so we're going to just go over some of the fundamental topics, issues, and then over the next webinars we'll be able to go into much more detail on some of the themes. This is not going to be a really technical webinar about how to use the platform, how to upload your documents, etc. If you do have any questions about that, then do visit the frequently asked questions section on our website or get in touch for more information. What today is a little bit of a how-to guide. We're going to look at 4 different themes, how to use crowdfunding to diversify your income, how to put together a really attractive project. Then we'll look at how to make the most of contests and matching funds. And finally, we'll talk about how to close out the donation, that really important part of the process by which you've done all the hard work and you want to really make sure that people come to your donation page, your crowdfunding page, and they actually take that last step of clicking on the Donate Now button. The webinar has been designed for people who are just starting out in crowdfunding. This may be the first time they're even hearing of the concept, or they're thinking while launching their first campaign. But we also hope there's information that's useful here for people who have already done some crowdfunding campaigns and want to find out how to optimize, how to reach even bigger goals and increase the amount of funds that they're able to raise online. So just as a way of getting to know us all, I'm going to launch a quick poll here. Hopefully you can see on your screen the question, which is, have you led a crowdfunding campaign before? So it would be great if you could just select your answer. Yes, if you have. No, but maybe you know someone in the organization that has. No, if you haven't. And if you're not sure, if you don't really know what we're talking about, then you can just click I don't know. I'm going to leave that open just for a couple more seconds. That's nearly everybody. Okay, so let's share the results. Today with our group, 23%, nearly a quarter, have led a crowdfunding campaign before, but the great majority, nearly 70%, haven't. And for the 5% who said they don't know, I hope that this webinar will kind of clear up information about what is crowdfunding and what a campaign would look like. Great, thank you very much. So moving on. The first how-to is how to use crowdfunding to diversify your income. I get to talk to a lot of organizations, nonprofits in my day-to-day work, and a lot of things that they share in common is the desire to diversify. It's like the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Why? Because if one of those baskets falls and the eggs break, then you have no source of food, or in this case of income. However, we know that if you diversify, it doesn't matter if one of your income sources falls through, you'll still have others to go back on. And a lot of organizations in the US and in Latin America are in the position where they know that they need to diversify. You may have an organization that's very reliant on business donations, or you may be reliant on international grants, national grants, local grants, or from private foundations, as is the case in many organizations today. But we know that individuals are a really large potential source of income. And we may already have direct mail, and we may already have strong individual giving programs, but we want to maximize the potential of that and reach more and more people, engage more and more different types of people in our giving programs. So how can crowdfunding help us reach that new sector of individual giving? I want to just play a short video for you. Let me switch screens so you can see a little bit more about how HIPGive works and what it does. On screen. Here's the video. Let's go.
Santiago lives in an area where 2 of every 5 children like him suffer from malnutrition. The high rates of poverty and unemployment in his community make adequate nutrition almost inaccessible for children like Santiago, making it hard for them to grow healthy, go to school, and become leaders in their community. A local organization is interested in children like Santiago and is looking for opportunities to provide access to healthy food and jobs by organizing trainings on agricultural techniques in order to create self-sustainable community gardens. Financial resources are needed to operate social programs, mobilize the community, and contribute to improve the lives of children like Santiago. To raise these funds, the organization launched a campaign on HIPGive. HIPGive is a crowdfunding platform for collective social investment that supports Latinos across the Americas to transform their communities. HIPGive generates awareness about social causes and allows organizations to mobilize the financial resources that will enable solutions. HIPGive offers technology, technical support, and training for organizations to successfully raise funds for their projects. The platform guarantees transparency and payment security, and all funds raised are always directed to the designated project. On HIPGive, every dollar counts. For 30 days, the organization spread the word about the project among friends, family, public figures, partner organizations, and social networks in order to collect the needed funds through HIPGive. Their call to action crossed borders, and they received the donations needed to reach their goal. At HIPGive, we ignite the spark and promote new ideas to generate social change and impact today's and future generations. Be part of this change. Visit HIPGive.org and join those improving the life of Latino communities. What are you waiting for?
Let me just close this down and go back to the presentation. There we go. So what makes crowdfunding different? What is it about crowdfunding that can really help us reach this new sector and increase and diversify our funding with individuals? Well, first of all, we've seen that it's useful to solve a specific problem for projects that are operating in the short term and when we need an immediate response, an immediate source of funds. It's also useful because we can get lots of people on board, and people who might not have traditionally donated before because they thought that their donation would be small and might not make a difference. And crowdfunding allows us to get all those people together, and with their donations of $10, $20, $50, $100 and more, together they can make a really big impact. And crowdfunding has really taken off. It's really a useful tool today because of technology. Technology allows us to share a lot more content than ever before and reach more people than ever before at a very low cost. And it's really useful because these people are both potential donors for our causes, but they're also ambassadors for our cause. So by reaching them, we can either access their donation or access their networks. And as they share our content and share our projects, we reach more and more wider audiences across the world even. However, something that we never get tired of saying is that crowdfunding is not a magic wand. It's not a recipe for success. We can't just think that by publishing our project online, up there in the digital cloud, the donations are suddenly going to appear. And money doesn't grow on trees, and it doesn't grow on the internet either. So we need to remember that there's a process involved about using crowdfunding to be able to raise more money from more people. This is a summary of the process that we use in HIPGive. It's simple, 4 stages. First of all, you set up the project on the platform, hipgive.org. You create a user and go in and upload the documents. We look through those documents and the text and the information that you share with us. We work with legally constituted nonprofit organizations. So we just do a quick check to make sure you are who you say you are, and that helps us ensure and give confidence to the donors that the money is going to reach the projects and they will be implemented correctly. It's about confidence. And once we authorize and publish the project, it can be live for 30, 45, or 60 days. And then that's your opportunity to engage in the promotion, the campaigning side. The project is up there, but the campaign is everything that is done to communicate the project. So you can use social media and every other channel of communication available to you to make sure as many people as possible hear about your project. And then finally, we count up and close the project and send those funds to you, normally by a bank transfer. Now, throughout the webinar, I want to give you some real-life examples of how this all works so that you're not just left with the theory. And this is an example from an organization called Scala Brianna's Mission for Migrants. It was their first project, and they were a little bit worried because their individual donor base was very small, just a couple of dozen people, and there were people that they could only count on when an emergency arose. So what they really wanted to do is focus on widening their donor base and getting more people involved. They had a small financial target for the project. They didn't actually make it, and I actually got in touch with them originally to find out were they upset or disappointed. And when I talked to Fabiola, to my surprise, she was really excited. And she said, even though we didn't reach our target, I still consider the campaign a success because we reached a new audience and we gained new donors. And that's exactly, for us, one of the standout benefits of crowdfunding, the ability to reach new audiences. And what's more, you see on the right-hand side of the screen, that's a part of the visual from the platform. That's what we see publicly, the names of the donors. Some of them are anonymous. But if Fabiola was to go into with her username into her part of the site, she would have access not only to the names and amounts, but also to the contact details for those people. So those donors that donated maybe for the first time to her organization become her donors. She integrates them into her donor cultivation system, and she can be in touch with them and create a long-term relationship with them over time. So that's a meaningful impact apart from the financial side of the crowdfunding. And this has been our general experience of organizations using HIPGive. Here is a summary of some of the results from the period from April 2014 to December 2015. Obviously, the big standout is the number. Over that time, we raised more than $830,000 for social impact causes. But really what I wanted to point out in this circle is that 80% of the participants reported growing their donor base. That's something that time and time again the organizations come back to us and say that crowdfunding has strengthened their organization in the long term because of that. Now, as I said, it's not a magic recipe, it's a process. So let's go back to the first step of the process and talk about how to put together an attractive project. How can you get together the materials, the text, the photos, and the videos that will allow you to really show off your project in its best light. Why the photo? Well, because today I think you'll coincide that when you go to the supermarket, when you're faced with a decision to spend your money, that you always choose projects that most satisfy your needs and your interests, things that you identify with. And even though there may be price factors and even there might be quality factors, as consumers, we're always influenced a little bit by the packaging, how something looks, how it appeals to our sense of identity. And the brands know this and they exploit it. And it would be a bit naive to think that the decision to donate money to a project online doesn't also follow a little bit the law of the market. So the key question is, without changing the fundamentals of our project, how can we put it together in such a way that makes it attractive, that makes people want to give money? In HIPGive, we try and make it easy for you to put together this multimedia project. Like I said, you create a user name and a password. You then have a dashboard here, just some basic screenshots of how that would look on my own dashboard. You can create projects and have them in drafts. I'll go back to why it's called a catchy title in a minute. And when you create your project, there's 6 categories of information. Information about the project, about the organization, the multimedia, the video that you can upload, the images or the photos that you can upload. There's also a chance to input information about the members of your team. We'll talk a bit about that later on. And the perks. And the perks are little ways that you can either say how you're going to publicly recognize your donors or if you want to send them a small thank you. That's a particularly unique feature of our platform compared to some others in the donation and social impact field. As I mentioned, we're wide open to any legally constituted organization that works with Latinos. And I wanted just to give you some ideas, some strategies for putting together that project that makes it more attractive. The first idea is that it should be something that can be carried out pretty quickly, if not immediately. You might agree that donors, people in general nowadays, we have shorter attention spans. We want more immediate gratification, especially in a world that's dominated by Facebook and immediate digital communication. So it's good to have a smaller part of your ongoing work, something that once the funds are raised, you can get to work on immediately, use the funds, and then get back to donors and show how their donations were important with the overall impact that you created. And you can use the text part of your pitch and the narrative that appears on the screen to show how even a small donation can make an impact. Again, it's possible and it happens that there's donations of 200, 500, even $1,000 or more on crowdfunding platforms like ours. But often the donations are $10, $20, $50. I think the average is around 70. So you want to show people how even that small donation can make an impact. Also, the second tip is choose an inspiring name and focus on being positive. I'll talk a little bit more later on about the joy of giving, how it's important to communicate that. But we do want to inspire people, show them the solutions, not the problems. I have been browsing the HIPGive platform for a while now, and I know which of the projects stand out to me just because of the way the names are titled. There's one which is called Dreamers for Education. There's one which is 50 Women Building Their Dreams with Code. There's one which is Strengthen the Thread. And what these names have in common are those positive verbs, the action verbs, build, strengthen, dream. And then they also are very concise and they tell us exactly what the projects are about. And when you communicate that enthusiasm, that inspiration, that's what brings people on board and that's what makes it attractive. We have enough problems in our daily life. When we give money, we want to give money to solve something, to make something positive happen. And the third idea is to tell a story. Now, storytelling has really taken off, and you could take a 6-month diploma course in how to tell a story. You have a postgraduate degree in how to tell a story nowadays. So we can't go into too much detail here, although we probably will in future webinars. But it is just really important to mention that you shouldn't be explaining your project from the point of view of the organization. You should be explaining from the point of view of those who benefit from it. People don't give to organizations. They don't give to the cause. There's this abstract notion. People give to people. So you want to tell a story from a personal, first-person perspective. And that's what creates a real connection with your audience. You want to generate, at the end of the day, empathy. Empathy is that emotional feeling that moves us from a logical response that says, yes, that problem is important, that cause is important, to actually doing something about it. So when you tell a story, it helps us put us in the shoes of other people, it helps create that empathy, and it helps us take action about it. Here are just a small example of how an organization has put together their project on the platform. You can check it out on the English website. Here you see this images in Spanish, but it's Adventures in Environmental Service. A good name, Adventure. That's a great word that communicates a lot of emotion and is positive. You can see that the photographs that they've chosen really communicate that joy of participating in the project. They had a great video in which Berenice, which is one of the beneficiaries of the project, she explains in her own words why it's important, why these girls need to get out of their own community and go and have these experiences as part of their growth and leadership process. And what I particularly loved is the way that they do what we call like the donation string or the shopping list. And so in their project pitch they say $10 provides a night of accommodation for one girl, because we know that the project is taking them away on a residential adventure. $50 would provide a safety basic survival swimming class for 8 of the girls, and $200 would provide the round-trip airfare. And they point out that this could be the first time that one of the girls is flying. So that's a really fun way to get us involved with the project. And it's also so very clear that the money is going to be used directly to impact the lives and the experience of the girls in the project. Now, there are a lot more projects like this on the website, so use it like a shop window. I invite you to go online, visit HIPGive.org, investigate how other organizations are communicating their projects. Moving on to the next how-to, we're going to talk about contests and matching funds. This is something that's pretty unique to HIPGive in the Latin American and US Latino crowdfunding world. Our commitment to philanthropy works on so many levels, and it's because of Hispanic and philanthropy's long-standing relationship with businesses and foundations that we are able to celebrate special giving days and special dates in the year with a lot of matching funds, a bolsa, I was going to say, a pocket of matching funds that we can share out to the organizations that raise funds on the platform. How does it work? Well, there's lots of different models that we've tried out, and maybe some of you have participated in the past. What we're going to do for the rest of 2016 is divide up the funds into different groups and release them at different times over the course of a day. We work with organizations on the East Coast, on the West Coast, all throughout Latin America, and we want to make sure that it doesn't matter what time zone you're working in or where your donors are, that every donation has the opportunity to be duplicated with some of the matching funds. And so if, for example, your donor makes a donation of $50 and it's within that time period and there's still funds available, then HIP will duplicate that amount and you will receive, when we do the final tally for the funds, $50 extra on your funds raised. I don't want to go into too much detail about this. I know there's a lot of questions normally. But really, because the next webinar that we're going to have on the 6th of July is going to go into much more detail about contests and matching funds, so please do join us for that. But I would like to say that we have 3 more coming up this year, 2 specifically which are going to be very strong in the US. Last year we had tendency to have about 10,000, 20,000 or more funds available for each contest, and this year we're working hard to really increase the amount of matching funds available. So these are some dates for your diary. On September 15th, we're going to be celebrating Hispanic Heritage, and we're going to be using the hashtag LatinosGive. It's part of our ongoing work to show that Latinos are not just recipients, but we're givers, and that we have a really strong philanthropic culture, and that we're really generous. So please do, in fact, start positioning the hashtag LatinosGive as soon as you want, and that will be September 15th in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. In October, we have a special contest to celebrate Crowdfunding Day in Mexico. I'm still waiting for the specifics of that contest, but we'll be doing it in collaboration with AFICO. AFICO is a national level association of crowdfunding platforms, and we're very proud to participate with them because we do believe that while in the US there's probably a much stronger culture of confidence in nonprofit organizations, of willingness and trust to donate online, there's also a very much larger percentage of people with credit cards to be able to give. We know that in Mexico and across Latin America, that culture is only beginning to emerge, and so we're very, very happy to participate in these initiatives to build the culture of online giving across the continent. And then finally, I think that the majority of you know Giving Tuesday is a global movement that celebrates giving, being generous, helping other people in many different ways. And this year, Giving Tuesday falls on November 29th. And we're going to be rolling out something very special. Aside from the matching funds, we're going to be really working hard to optimize our platform and make it a much more targeted donor experience when they can find the projects that they want to support on Giving Tuesday this year. So like I said, we'll be talking more about that in the next webinar. And what I did want to share with you in terms of the success story of the contest is our results from Giving Tuesday last year. Just on the single day of Giving Tuesday, the platform raised over $200,000, and then we were $40,000 awarded in match funding that day. Compared to a normal day in the life of HIPGive, we had an increase in users by 720%. And when we compared the amount raised by organizations on a normal campaign compared to their Giving Tuesday Day results, we find that Latin American organizations had an increase of 525% in the volume of donations raised, and in the US, still a remarkable result. Their donations went up by 221% as compared to a normal day. So you can see that there's a really strong motivation to plan your crowdfunding campaign around a contest, around a time where there's a global or national giving day or matching fund contest. It's an incentive for you to really put your resources and work hard to make the campaign a success, and obviously it's a great incentive to the donors, because on one hand, well, who doesn't like a 2-for-1 offer? They know that there's an opportunity for their donation to be doubled and to mean more for you, but there's also this opportunity to feel connected. I don't like to go too much into topics of religion and spirituality, but I think it is very true nowadays that as we're becoming more busy and more involved in so many different material things in our life, people look to charity to have a sense of connection, to have a sense of belonging, to feel connected for a greater good. And the Giving Days give people that opportunity. And so it's the money, but it's a lot more than the money as well, what Giving Days mean to us. So like I said, please do join us for the following webinar if contests and matching funds is something that you're interested in. For now, we'll move on. Here's the webinar and the matching fund contest, like I said. So you can actually go on the blog and click on the link for the funds and sign up for any of the future webinars. The last topic that I want to deal with is the how to close out the donation. We see a lot of projects come and go, and something that we see time and time again is that you could have the greatest project. One of the projects is making the most useful impact in the community. And you could have programmed it for a giving day or a contest. You could have created the most wonderful materials, you know, a super video and really engaging photographs, and you could have all of your editorial calendar lined up for content. But if you don't generate traffic to your crowdfunding page, if people don't come and visit that page, and if people visit that page but just look at the information and go, oh, that's great, and then don't click on that Donate Now button, then all of your effort could be in vain and you won't reach your goal. So it's really important to learn how to close out the donation. Now there's two different ways of looking at this. Some people would still say, maybe the traditional group would say that people are the way to get people to give. They say that, you know, fundraising is all about friend raising, that people don't give to causes, people give to people. And so the way to really get people to get clicking on that Donate Now button is using the power of people and their connections. But there's another kind of more recent camp that says the content is equally important. Today, because of the ubiquity of social media and because of the facility of lifting up the phone and talking to someone on the other side of the world with email, with WhatsApp messages, that we can really use content to reach out to people. Even if we have only a very weak connection to them, the content can be what drives them to support our cause. So here are some ideas looking on both sides of those arguments about how you can get people to click through. First of all, content. I think it's really important with all your content to focus on the joy of giving. On one of the pages that's coming up, you'll see a link to the Camberwell Collective report called Money for Good. This is a report that was published earlier this year, and I've taken this image from it because they studied donor behavior. They looked at what prevents people or the obstacles to giving, and they looked at what encourages people to give. And their conclusion is we need to re-inject energy into a positive culture of giving. When I was growing up, I was always told that there was more joy in giving than receiving. And it's something that maybe your parents tell you when they haven't got you the biggest present. But really it's true. And I think, like I said, nowadays when more and more people have that spiritual need for feeling part of something bigger and contributing to something good, they want to feel part of a joyous, happy movement. So following the tips of the Money for Good report, we should make giving dynamic. It shouldn't be a chore. It should be something that we seek to refresh and renew, and we can make new decisions, starting to give online rather than just giving in our traditional ways. We should make it simple, and actually, well, that's what we've tried to do a lot with the HIPGive platform. Just with 2 or 3 clicks, you can make the donation and immediately get a confirmation in your inbox. you should make people feel connected. Use that empathy to create attachment to causes, and look into people's sense of identity as well about things that are particularly important to them from the circumstances that they've had in their life. And we should make giving joyful. We should use our content to communicate everything that's positive and make them feel that they want to join in, not that they have to join in. And those are things that we can do in our communications. So I think it's important not just to send out communications that talk about the project, but also talk about more kind of transversal themes about why giving is important and how even a small donation can make a difference and how we can use giving on a crowdfunding platform into a family exercise where parents can share it with children, etc. There's lots of ways to talk about giving itself as well as just the specific aim of your project. Another way to use content to your benefit is to include great calls to action. Here's just a small email that I use as an example, but I love this because, again, where you can see the message of positivity in the photo, and then the message changed someone's entire life story in 1 minute. But right there is the Donate Now button, and you'll see it again down below in blue, Donate Now. And so that call to action is very clear. You can not just donate now, you can change someone's life, and then you do it by clicking. So I think it's always very important to generate that traffic back to the donation page and have people understand that it's not just enough to be worried or concerned or identify with a particular cause, but that they can do something about it and that what they do does make a difference. Now moving on to the people side of things, one of the most important things that you can do is bring the top leadership on board. And again, this is something that we see over and over again. Organizations that get frustrated because they don't reach their fundraising goal, and we ask them, well, you know, who was sharing the posts? Who was talking about the campaign? How did you make sure that people at all different levels of the organization were involved? And they say to us afterwards, it was just, you know, us guys in the communications and development offices that were running it. And as we know, social media, even email, even, you know, cell phone apps, they work on network basis. So if you tell one person and that one person shares, then it reaches a whole new audience. And then everyone in that new audience shares, then you exponentially grow your audience. But crucially, people at the top tend to have more influence. And so it's really important to bring, if you can, the president of your board members, the director of the organization, maybe also some top donors, have them commit to your campaign, even if it's only with a very small donation, or even if it's maybe a donation that they were already going to make, but they make it online as a show of leadership. And if they make their donation, and then also very importantly, share the word about having made that donation in their social media networks and their real life networks, then that can really encourage more people to come on board. If we believe in the mantra that people give to people, well then there's no other way around it. We have to have everyone in the organization committed to sharing and communicating with other people. This is another image that comes from the Money for Good report. It's about donor segmentation, and I was inspired to put it in because I was reading a recent article. It's also linked to there on the Stanford Social Innovation Review, which is called The Pitch is Dead, Long Live the Conversation. So maybe if you want to do some follow-up reading and go into more detail, you can click on either of those articles or reports. But really I think it's crucial that if we want to get people involved and enthusiastic about our campaign, we need to ditch the pitch. We can't do one-way communication anymore. We can't just talk at them. We need to listen to them. We need to get personal, have a conversation, and find out what their interests and goals and giving culture is and relate to that. I think it's also very important as well to recognize that when we're crowdfunding, probably a large part of our audience or our target audience are going to be millennials. They're going to be people that have grown up as digital natives, which means that they're entirely accustomed to everything being personalized. They open up their Facebook and it's personalized. They open up their email, and whether they've received an email from a friend or an email from a very large multinational organization, it still says, for example, Dear Anita at the top. They're used to personalization, and they're used to being listened to, and we need to respond in that way. Donor segmentation, as the image shows, is one way of going about this, and one way of really focusing your campaign so that the message that you send works for the people who receive it. Now this is just an example image. The Canberra Collective do have an actual tool for this, but I think it's important to move away from segmentation where we're talking about people's giving capacities We shouldn't be thinking about categorizing people, whether they're a major donor potential or an intermediate donor. It's not about how much money they can give or how frequently they can give. It's what about their motives for giving? What are their characteristics? What do they identify with? What are their attitudes and their behaviors? And if you can just take a little bit of time to delve into your audience, either on your email lists or on your social media, and work out who's listening to you now and what do they want? How do they behave? What are the obstacles or the barriers that they might have to giving to your campaign? Then that means you can craft messages which are much more personalized for them. And you can reach out to them on a people-to-people level and not just on a mass communication level. So that's really important. And also just a little tip, the communications that we have nowadays on social media are not one-way. We need to use them as two-way communication. And we need to use them to initiate conversations and get in touch with people. Now, it is time-consuming. If you're not fortunate enough to have a social media community coordinator, well, then you need to maybe put together a team for your campaign. But I think it's really useful. Something as simple as when somebody likes one of your posts, to just set up a conversation with them. Hi, George. That's great that you liked our post. What makes you enthusiastic about the work that we do? Ask a question, get them on board, and then it's much easier to bring them to that close, to bring them to that place where they are willing to click and donate now because they have a real relationship with you and you have a real connection to the project. Having talked so much about fundraising in the digital world, I think it's also important to say that people, well, we live in the real world. So you can also take your online crowdfunding into the real world. Here's just an example of a gala dinner, but you can think of any type of event where it would be really good to talk about your campaign. And I would say that in that picture and in 95% of events, everyone has a cell phone in their pocket, and there's nothing to stop them just taking out that cell phone, visiting HIPGive, and making a donation there and then with their credit card. So do use special events and do use opportunities that you have to talk to people about the campaign. When we were talking about getting the leadership on board, you could think about in one of the upcoming board meetings actually taking 10 minutes and saying to all of the board members, please take out your mobile phones now and visit their page and make a donation. And then you give them a copy-paste of a post that they can share about how they've done that. Board members are notoriously difficult to track down, so if you have them all together in one room, use that opportunity. Something else that organizations have been telling us of late is that they've had very small launch events for their campaigns. Now, nothing fancy, not a gala dinner, just a way of getting all, lots of people together, maybe in a restaurant or in a social place. But they talk about the campaign, and what's happened is that people have been so enthusiastic that they wanted to give them cash donations. And as any good fundraiser knows, you should never say no to a good donation. So what they've done is they've taken the cash donation because they know it would be much more difficult to recover that donation afterwards. You couldn't say to the person, well, no, keep your money and go online later tonight and donate by your credit card. So what they've been doing is they can say, right, that's great, thank you. They take the money and then they upload it to the crowdfunding page, as it were. Somebody else uses their own credit card, makes a donation, but is careful to write in that the donation was given by such and such a person so that it's recognized. And it's just a change of medium for making the donation and ensuring that it contributes to the crowdfunding campaign. Now, obviously, that's an exception, but again, it's a way of showing how the real world and the virtual world can merge. So just to review those points, tips for closing out the donation, do bring your top leadership on board, ditch the pitch speech, the elevator speech, and aim for personalized conversations with people. You can fundraise online, but you should also look to the real world. Always, always, always include a call to action and a link to the project page. Don't let anyone go by because they didn't know, they wanted to donate and they didn't know how to. And in all your communications, reinforce this positive culture of giving. What you sow today, you'll reap later. So maybe if you have all these positive messages, you'll find that not all of the donors converted to giving a donation at that time, but you'll be definitely sowing the seed for future giving and a future culture of giving that's beneficial to your organization. So again, just to ground this in real-world experiences, how have other organizations learned how to close out the donation? This is an example from Vladimir, who works in Voces Mesoamericanas, Acción para Pueblos Migrantes. They work in the south of Mexico, actually. He said to me it was a crucial part of his campaign was he had a staff meeting and he got everyone to commit to spreading the word. So every single member of the organization had to commit to sending emails, sharing posts on Facebook, even lifting up the phone and talking to people. And as a result, he said it was amazing. They had, volunteers from Spain who had worked with their organization 3-4 years ago, who rounded up different donations from Spain. Somebody's aunt who lived in Mexico City decided to make a very generous donation. And it just shows you that we are staff in organizations, we have large networks ourselves, and a lot of people that we're friends with and that we know think it's great that we carry out this work in the community. So why not give them a chance to do something specific and concrete about it and give them a chance to help in this campaign. And another great strategy of Vladimir, as you can see, he uploaded all his colleagues to the HIPGive campaign page to show them as co-organizers of the campaign. So I think there's no better way to show somebody that they're part of the campaign, that they have a vested interest in it, if their photograph and their name is actually on the campaign page in the team section. And that was maybe a people way to close out the donation. And here's an example of what Vladimir did in terms of content. He made what he calls a video letter. And I love this idea because sometimes we think that videos are really hard to produce and they need a lot of money and time and professional production. And no, with your cell phone you can just take this short video, and this is a 45-second video of Rufino. Rufino was actually the protagonist of the stories that they told in their project about education for dreamers. And Rufino gives a message in English and in Spanish, a simple out appeal. This is why we're doing the project, it's really important, please donate. And then his sister did the same appeal in her own indigenous language from Chiapas in Mexico. And you can see from the screenshot that at all times there was a call to action and the link to the campaign page on the screen. But maybe what the most important thing about this video letter is that, as Vladimir said, they work really well because, like any letter, they imply that a response is needed. And that's so very true. In a world where we're inundated with communications, it's so easy to ignore that email in our inbox and press delete in a millisecond. When we're looking through our social media profiles, we spend so few seconds on each individual post, milliseconds. And how do we get our appeal and our content to stand out? By making a face-to-face conversational me-to-you appeal. And I think as human beings we're programmed when someone asks us for something that we do want to give something back. So like any letter, a video letter implies that you should respond in some way at least. So that's us through our 4 how-to points for today. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and you can type them into the panel on the right. I hope that this has been a great introduction for people who haven't led fundraising campaigns, crowdfunding campaigns before, and that for those who have, they'll find a little bit extra detail of something that they could try in the next campaign. We wanted to show, not just in the theory but in the practice, that crowdfunding is a great way to diversify your incomes, reach new audiences, especially in individuals, and that you can also use the contests and the matching funds that HIPGive offers to think about the timing of your campaigns. And if you put together a really attractive project and you follow through on a strong communications campaign, which is always directed at being positive about the giving experience and getting people to click on that Donate Now button, then crowdfunding cannot replace the traditional ways of fundraising, but can certainly become a really important component of your annual fundraising plans and strategies. So thank you very much. I'm going to have a look on the questions now. Do please remember that there's more webinars. I put a link there. Actually, if you go to our blog, there's a calendar of the future webinars. You can sign up for them now. And we're always available in the office. Our emails with the start of the presentation. You can get in touch anytime. If we're able to help you, we'll be very happy to do so. So I'm just opening up the question part. Okay, somebody has asked if there's a chance to have this in Spanish. Yes, actually, we do a Spanish webinar and an English webinar every time we have a webinar session, and both are available, so we'll try and send it out to you. Okay, I can't see any other questions that need answering right now. So in which case, I will say thank you very much indeed. It's been a real pleasure to be with you this afternoon. As I said, we're always willing to help and give you some advice on how you can have crowdfunding success. And I'll just stay around for a couple more minutes in case anyone wants to put in a question. Here we have one here. Could you comment on some creative ways to say thank you? Indeed, saying thank you is one of the best ways to ensure the success of future campaigns. And we try and encourage people to use the perks section of the HIPGive platform for that. Some people like to send out physical things if they have a project with children or with people who can make handicrafts. They also like to send out small items, or maybe they already have some merchandise and they can post that physically out to donors. Other people have told us that many donors, when they've been asking for their address to say, well, you know, we promised you this small perk and we'd like to send it out to you, the donor says, no, 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 don't worry. I would prefer that you keep it and use it for something better in the future. So what they tend to do is send out kind of email thank you cards. And in fact, I think that one of our organizations, Contextos, has done a great example of this, and I think she's maybe on the call. They had their school children just do lovely, simple thank you pictures, you know, with colors, with coloring pens and pencils. But what was really important was they personalized it to every donor. So if, I don't know, James made a donation, they made sure that the picture said thank you, James, and they scanned it and sent it with email to James. And that was a really personalized way of saying thank you. I think some other organizations have made videos. At the end of the campaign, they get all the staff and the beneficiaries together and they make a short video that says thank you, and they send that out to people. Some organizations post like the roll of honor, and they list all the names and they post that on social media. I think what is really effective is to thank in real time. During your campaign, to just be every day on top of who's donating and send them out something immediately, and then maybe send them a shout out on social media. And give them something that they can share. And it's good to do that really quickly because we do live in an age of more instant gratification, and that makes people feel really valued, the time element. And some other organizations have said thank you by giving people a chance to participate in their organization. I'm thinking specifically, for example, of an organization that offers coding classes and, you know, website code. And if you gave a certain amount of donation, they said, well, you can come in and join our course virtually. So there's lots of different ways of being creative and saying thank you to people. Okay, here's another query. We have one died. Are we going to be contacted for the next one, the one in July, the webinar? Yes. If we have you in our database, we're going to be sending out reminders about upcoming webinars. So you will receive those. Although, like I said, you can also go online now, visit the post, the most recent post on our blog, and you can actually register for the future webinars there as well. But don't worry, we will be in touch and we'll let you know. Okay, so like I said, I'll hang around for a couple more minutes now in case there's any more remaining questions, and I'll answer them by writing. Thank you very much indeed, and we hope to see you soon on the HIPGive platform. Have a great afternoon.